All right, so as you can tell, this is a pretty ugly, foggy, hazy, crusty, nasty looking headlight here. So typically what we do to restore headlights is, depending on the severity of the headlight, we usually go 800, 1000, 15, 2000, 3000, compound polish and protect. Now if you had a rotary, you could stop like a 2000, but we go all the way to 3000 because we have a rotary, but just to make life easier. Anyways, so in this video, I want to take you through the process of a much simpler version on how to restore your headlights with just a 3000 disc sanding paper and then compounding polishing. So again, we usually go through like a 5-step, 8, 1000, 15, 2, 3000 grit sanding paper. But let's say you have limited to, I don't know, maybe you just want to get, like, if you want to get into headlight restorations, sanding headlights can be quite extensive, because once you start with 800, then each following step has to be you have to sand them down well enough to erase the previous steps. And if you don't, so let's say you start off with 800, but you go up to 1000, but you do a crappy job with the 1000, right? So you don't take out all the 800 sanding marks. So 800 will always be there, even if you go to 1000, 15, 2000, 25, 3000, because you didn't remove the 800 grit sanding marks, you'll be able to see them once you're all done. So if you don't remove the previous step, all the marks from the previous sanding steps will be shown. So you have to, that's why I want to do like a very light version of this. So let's say you just want to take 20 minutes to restore your headlights, right? So this is as ugly as it gets. So first things first is you want to wipe it down, right? So this is just ONR, and I'm gonna keep things very simple, right? So I'm only gonna be using ONR, not a separate water bottle, not a garbage, just ONR, a microfiber towel, a 3000 grit sanding paper, and then your choice of polisher, compound, and pad. So first things first, let's just wipe it down. I'm not even gonna tape it. One, because this is the most simplistic type of headlight you can work on, and two, just to keep things simple. But this is how simple can this headlight get. All right, so boom. You could clay it if you want, but we're gonna start sanding it, so the sanding will take care of anything that's on there. So you do want to use one of these little handheld thingamabobbers. I forget what they're called. Well, I'll have everything linked in the description box down below. So we're going to just saturate the headlight, right? Again, I want to keep this headlight restoration very simple. It might not even come out all the way, but at least it'll look better, right? So if your headlights are ugly and you're like, man, I really want to restore them, try this out first. Keep it simple. Because again, what I see time and time again, the same reason why I made the other video on the paint correction of like just start with one panel or one section of the vehicle instead of trying to do everything, is because you can get overwhelmed. Like if you're just getting into it, if you're just doing this and you're like, oh, so many steps, I'm checking, it's not coming. It's very easy to get overwhelmed. So just to make it look better, just to get introduced into sanding your headlights, let's start off with spraying some ONR. Spray it onto the disc with very light, like I'm not putting on any pressure. It's just enough to hold on to just to make sure it doesn't fall from the headlight. Now the reason why I just want to start with 3000 is because you can just go straight into polishing or correcting without having to do any additional step. So you're gonna see, and you want to, after like every pass, you want to spray it down. That way you're always working with a clean surface. You're gonna see a lot of slurry come off of here. This is the old clear coat, or the top layer gunk that we're removing. So if you start off with a lower grit, you would see a lot more of this. So we're not gonna get everything off because it's only 3000. If you're starting with 800, you're gonna be taking off a lot more. So yes, would you get better results if you start with the 800, 1000, and so on? Yes, but because I want to show you a condensed, so to speak, light version on headlight restoration, we're gonna do it with just 3000. Now you want to stay away from the edges, so if you aren't comfortable, definitely double tape this section, meaning put one strip and then put a second strip. Why? Because if you just put one strip of tape and it gets wet, it becomes very easy to sand through it with the sandpaper. So if you put 2, it's just a double layer, and it's a heavier protection for the edges of your paint. So put double layer. If you're at home and you're like, I'm kind of scared about that, tape it up. Okay. So if you're not comfortable, then yes, tape it up. So I'm staying away from the edges just a smidge. That way I don't go over and sand the actual paint. Now because we're only going with 3000, I want to do more passes. Even if I don't see anything come off, I just want to go, I want to sand a bit longer because it's a lighter cut. So in theory, it's like I want to spend more time cutting because it's a lighter cut versus on the 800, it's gonna really dig down. So that's why I want to go over more and more passes. And you can tell already, it's already looking a tons better. If that's even a word. That will make it a bit more difficult. So if needed, right, if you can't get it like this on the edge, you could take off this part with your interface right here, because you need the interface, and just gently work the very tight areas that you need help on, that you need to really get in there. This headlight doesn't give me that problem. Now, can you use a polisher? Yes, you can. We have a cordless drill. We have a mini polisher that we can put the interface on, that we can actually polish, or we can sand with the polishing machine. 2 downsides to that is, 1, it's gonna create a lot of sling. So like it'll be, the sling will be all over the place. And 2, if you're not used to sanding, if you're not comfortable sanding, I would not recommend you do it with a machine, because you're just not used to the feel of it with your hand, less so a machine. So that's the only reason why I wouldn't recommend it with a polisher. But at this point, we're not taking anything else off. Like what we took off, that's it. Like I can keep on sanding and sanding, and I'm gonna take minimal off. If I were to switch to an 800 right now, I would take off more of that nastiness, because it's cutting deeper into the headlight. But I'm gonna say we're good here. So this is already looking good, right? It's already looking better. Not good, but better, right? So we'll wipe it down. And typically, on our full process, I would be using the air compressor, blowing everything out, making sure that I'm gonna keep things super simple, because look, most people trying to restore the headlights don't have an air compressor, don't have a blower, don't have a cordless machine, don't have all the sanding papers, don't have, so I'm trying to keep it very simple, because it's easy to be like, hey, use this and use that and use this and use that and get this and get this. It's like, most people don't have the full setup. So as you can tell, it looks clear, but there's still plenty of scratches because we put the sanding marks in there. So okay, it's not gonna come out perfect. They should have at least started at 1000. So now what I'm gonna do is grab our handy dandy cordless Adams polisher. You can use whichever machine you want. Any of them will do the same. It would actually help if I use a smaller polisher, like a 3-inch, which I have, but again, I want to keep it simple. And I'm going to use a 5-inch pad. Now again, I can get away with a lot of things on this headlight because it's so small and it's so basic. Like on an FRS, on a whatever, like how there's like grooves to it and stuff. With that one, you're kind of forced to use a smaller machine. But with this one, you can get away with a lot. And yes, you actually can burn headlights. If you can tell in this little corner right here, I used a rotary and I was like, let me see if I can burn it. So I turned it on its side and I just kind of grind it down on it, and it did burn the headlight because it's plastic. So you can burn headlights as well. That was just one pass of the compound. All right, so if we look at the polisher, it's actually a little ugly and yellow because what we're getting off of the headlights. Now, we have this cleaning brush here, pretty standard. If not, just use your towel, for instance. You can use your towel here and just kind of scrub a dub to get the fibers back up and to clean it up a little bit. You can spray your O&R just a tad bit, and then you can agitate a little bit, and then get your towel again and kind of just clean it up, just to kind of give it like a fresh start. Put a bit more product on this. Spread it around town. Again, more ugliness is being pulled off. But nonetheless, look, I'm gonna end it right here as far as what we're doing to get our results. Like, is it a night and day difference? Yes. Is it perfect? No. Is this passable for most people that just want to give a little bit of life to their engine bay, to their headlights? All right, so I don't know where the camera cut off, but the reason why I'm explaining it to you this way is because I remember when I first started sanding, I went through the same process where I went through all the steps. I had all the right equipment, but because I didn't, like, it was my first time sanding headlights and I didn't do the right job. When I polished and when I corrected, when I buffed and polished it, I was like, man, why is there still so many scratches? And I remember the frustration, like, all right, maybe I need to go back to 2,000. Okay, let me go back to 1,000. And then I was like, all right, damn, let me start off at 800 again and go all the way up. So the reason why I want to explain it to you is and show you like what happens, like even with 3,000, if you don't sand correctly, that it's not going to come out as well. And it's better to see where you're making the errors at 3,000 versus at 800 and then going all the way up. So right now, let's just polish it to see our final results. All right, so there we go. It is now polished. Now, you can't tell on the camera, but you can still see a light haze right here on the edges. Now, overall, does it look 10 times better, 100 times better than the original condition? Yes. Now, with these headlights, they're kind of they're past damage, right? Like there's permanent scratches because they've been beaten up, like they've been in the sun for so long that you most likely will have to dig down pretty deep to get to them. So with many headlights, especially on older vehicles, like this is an 09, so now it's been what, 11 years now? 11 years, 12 years? Is that they're not gonna come out perfect unless you're willing to go down to that level of grit. But the same thing with your paint, same thing with interior. We're like, hey, look, it's not gonna come out perfect, but it is gonna look 10 times better, right? So you wanna go with that regard. So with this one, will most people be happy with these results? I'd say so, right? If you say, hey, I can restore your headlights, it'd be however much you charge, or if you're just working on your personal vehicle, like, would this not be a favorable result versus what it was? I would say so. So next step here is just to protect the headlight. Go with any wax or sealant that you'd want. That's totally up to you. I'm not gonna show it just to keep the video short because it's already running kind of long. So you just apply it, whatever you want, a coating, a wax, a sealant, you apply it and you're good to go and it'll last. It depends on so many things. But anyways, hopefully you learned at least the basics, an introduction to sanding your headlights. Hopefully you don't get like me and you get overwhelmed and you mess up and you just wanna like stop doing what you're doing. Start something light, let that, at least on one headlight, start light. Okay, I kind of get the gist of it. Okay, that was good. On your next light, okay, let me do the full yards, or let me do like, let me start at 1,000 and go and work my way up. So hopefully this points you in the right direction. All the links to the tools and products that I use will be down below, and I'll see everyone on the next one.